How many lovers have you made today? Chapter 1. What's come to pass? Anon drowsily opens his eyes. The soft glow of the moon fades in tandem with the rising sun. He looks over to his right and finds Celestia still snuggled up close, her head at the nape of his neck. He turns to look over at Luna, who's nestled to his left, her head lying on his chest. Anon examines the ceiling as he watches the shadows around the corners dance and bend in response to the playful rays of morning sunlight pouring into the room. It had been 2 weeks since that night happened, the night that he helped Twilight. Anon remembers when he trudged back to Celestia's room, exhausted over everything. How he explained to them the events of that night. To say the sisters were surprised would be putting it lightly. It took Anon the better half of a day to get across what went down with Twilight, and it felt as if it took just as long for it to sink in for the sisters. The moment of truth came the day after during breakfast. Twilight was there, and while Anon still felt sick around her, he at least tolerated her presence. He could see how happy this made Celestia, and it filled him with a resolve to continue, even if his body protested. There were a lot of worries from both sisters, but Anon tried his best to alleviate those concerns. Celestia was easy enough, as she thought Anon only did this for her sake, and it's true that she was a big reason for why he decided to help Twilight, but she wasn't the only reason. Luna also felt guilty over what she did, and now had inadvertently affected Anon. Anon didn't need to forgive her because he didn't blame her. After everything was said and done, he felt all worked out in the end, and that was enough for him. He trusts Luna, and he knows that she only did it because she thought it was the right thing to do. Perhaps he didn't agree with her methods and admitted that he didn't want her to put herself at risk for his sake, but overall, he wasn't mad at her. Tears were shed and hugs were had, as is pony tradition. As for Twilight, well, Anon doesn't really know. They didn't speak, barely made eye contact, and for the better part of the week, Anon had been busy helping Celestia with his upcoming festival. Twilight mostly talks to Celestia and leaves Anon be. At least he's not a complete mess when she's around anymore, so that's a plus in his book. However, he can't deny that he's noticed an odd look from Twilight, as if she's holding herself back for some reason. So what about the others? Anon hasn't seen much of Spike. I guess he's probably been spending a lot of time by himself to think things over about what he's learned. Anon recalls briefly running into Spike once, and Spike thanked him for being upfront with him and helping him back to the room. After that, he just left, without saying anything else. Now, Blossom... well, she's still Blossom, protecting from the shadows and asking for Anon's help with paperwork whenever he's available. Bonbon and Lyra... yeah, he hasn't heard from either of them. As far as he knows, they're still working at the store, but he's not really sure. He still thinks about them and wonders often if he did the right thing. He knows he did, but he hates that Bonbon had to suffer because of his choices. Anon let out a sigh. It doesn't matter. Everything is going to be better than before, and that's all he cares about. The sisters are happier than ever, and the kingdom isn't at war. Things are a lot better than before, actually. Anon feels more at ease. He doesn't have to worry about where Twilight might be or something bad may have happened. And it's weird for him to admit, but he's enjoying the moments given to him. Even now, just being here with the sisters, it's nice. Hearing their soft, rhythmic breaths as they rest is calming. Just being with them is enough to make his day. He appreciates what they've done for him, and helping them makes him feel as if he's doing something right. Anon can feel Celestia start to stir awake. She nuzzles into his neck slightly just before she lifts her head and gives off a yawn.
Good morning.
Celestia says drowsily.
Good morning.
You couldn't sleep?
She asks.
I slept, just woke up early is all.
She rests her head on the nape of his neck again.
No more festival preparations.
She mumbles.
We can finally relax.
Hey, that's good news.
What are you two doing up?
Luna growls.
Go back to sleep.
Sorry, but I'm already awake.
Anon says as he moves from both sisters and gets out of bed.
I'm just gonna walk around a little.
See you at breakfast?
Celestia asked, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe we can do something together today, you know, the three of us.
Celestia smiled.
That's a lovely idea.
Alright, I'll see you at breakfast.
Anon confirms before leaving the room. Once Anon is gone, Celestia looks down to her sister, who's trying her best to fall asleep.
Luna, I think it's time.
Celestia shakily says.
Time for what?
Luna murmurs, eyes heavy. After a moment of silence, Celestia summons the courage to speak.
I want to try and court Anon.
Luna's eyes snapped open at that. She sits up on the bed to properly face her sister.
Really?
Celestia nods.
I couldn't ask for a better time than now. Anon has done so much for us, and now I want to offer him something that no pony else can. If that's what you want, then go for it.
Luna says with a grin.
Remember, you lay the groundwork, then I come in for the kill.
Celestia blushes at that.
I still can't believe that we're doing this. Don't worry, Tia. It'll be fine. Anon is very understanding, and I'm sure that he'll be fine with the idea of dating.
That makes Celestia wonder.
I really hope you're right, Lulu.
Anon seats himself under a tree and leans against it. Man, he feels exhausted. He definitely can't shake his introverted ways. He likes being around the sisters and all, but there's been so much going on with the festival preparations that it's nice whenever he can get some time to himself. He hasn't even been dreamwalking, instead opting to keep to himself. Luna had been busy too, as there were a number of things that she was responsible for in this festival as well, so they haven't dreamwalked together in quite a while. Even with all the time that's passed and the promise Anon made to Luna, he still finds his mind wandering to Nightmare Moon. It's weird. There are just a lot of things about her that bother him. He's not willing to break the promise on a hunch, but maybe talking to Luna could help ease his thoughts? Maybe she would just tell him more about Nightmare Moon. It'd at least help him sate his curiosity. Anon shakes his head clear of those thoughts. Why does he even care? Nightmare Moon did horrible things, and she's being punished for what she did. At least that's what Anon wants to believe. Luna and Nightmare Moon shared that punishment on the moon, and now she's just trapped in that void, forgotten and alone. Truly having no one. Anon knows how it feels to be alone, but that pales in comparison to Nightmare Moon's complete isolation. Anon snorts. Why is he even humanizing her? The things that she did hurt Luna, and she's getting her just desserts. For all eternity. He hates this. When he thinks about her, he can't help but empathize and realize that she suffered far more than he has, far more than anyone ever should. Sure, Nightmare's actions are what caused her imprisonment, but that's besides the point. She didn't seem like a bad pony, and that's why Anon keeps thinking about her. It's why he wants to understand and form his own opinion of her, despite Luna's instructions not to. Anon was so lost in thought that he didn't really notice the sound of a pony approaching.
Anon?
Says a quiet, distressingly familiar voice. Anon freezes up as it registers just who the voice belongs to. That's Twilight. He trembles a bit, but otherwise just stays in control of himself. Yeah, he answers nonchalantly, trying to keep his cool. Anon looks over to see Twilight. That hesitant look is still there, even as she uncomfortably glances around, searching for anyone who would be near. She returns her gaze to Anon, and he notices that she's unnaturally rigid, as though at any moment she would bolt and try to put as much distance between them as possible. Looks like she shares the same discomfort that he feels when they're together.
May I speak with you?
She asks. He doesn't like that idea. He doesn't like being around her. Actually, he all around hates this situation, but despite the sick feeling in the pit of his stomach, he'll try to play nice. If only for Celestia's sake. It's a struggle, but Celestia's done a lot for him, and he's returning the favor, even if his body and mind are against him. Yeah, I've got the free time. Twilight can't believe that she's managed to run into Anon alone. For these passing weeks, she's wanted to talk with him, because there's something significant that she wants to discuss with him, and it's not something that she can speak of with anyone but him. Twilight approaches Anon, making sure to keep her distance to a respectable level. She sits down to get comfortable and notices how Anon fidgets some. She'll have to make this quick.
Anon? I wanted to thank you.
Thank him? That's an odd thing for him to hear. Now, why would she want to do that? He decided to keep silent and let her speak her mind.
The night that you helped me, I was lost. I couldn't think or feel anything. Everything was gone, and I was afraid of what would happen to me. That's when you came. I know you helped me as a way of protecting Luna, but I am grateful for it. That's why I've kept silent about what she did. So, from the bottom of my heart, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anon says, unsure of how to respond.
I know that there's no point in saying this, but I want you to know that I'm sorry for what I did in Ponyville. I should have been there for you like Pinky was, but I wasn't. Not for very good reasons, but I suppose that matters little now. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I still want you to know that I deeply regret everything that's happened between us, and I'm sorry for the pain that I've caused you.
This is all getting a bit too weird for Anon. He doesn't know what to say in return. Because she's right. He's not going to forgive her, and her apology means nothing to him. However, she's trying. That's a good thing, right? All of this is complicated. What he wants for himself versus what he wants for Celestia is the center of an intense conflict within him. So, he decides to stay silent. Twilight notices how tense Anon has become. She's not surprised. He doesn't know what to say to her. Not like she'd have the answers if the tables were reversed, so she decides to talk about one of the main reasons that she wanted to speak with him. Something that's been grating on her mind for quite a while.
Anon, there's one last thing I'd like to talk to you about.
She takes a moment to gather her thoughts as she tries her best to look him in the eyes, but every so often she has to avert her gaze before unsteadily returning it.
I'd like for you to help me with something.
This is becoming too much for Anon. This has got to be the longest he's ever spent near Twilight, and it's taking its toll. He can feel the sickness rising, but he'll persevere, if only out of curiosity.
You want my help?
She nods.
It took me some time to realize it, but you're not the only one I've hurt. I want to make amends with those I've wronged.
This is somewhat interesting for Anon to hear. He thinks back on Gilda and her story about how Rainbow Dash turned her back on her. It's not surprising to hear that Twilight has hurt others, but still, why would she need his help?
Okay, why are you asking me, of all people, to help you?
Alright, Twilight feels as if she's making some headway right now, and Anon is at least willing to hear her out. She was sure that he'd just ignore her or even walk away.
Well, the first pony I'd like to speak with is Trixie.
You know Trixie?
He sits up slightly, lifting an eyebrow.
No, well, yes, it's complicated.
Twilight dejectedly paws at the ground.
Do you want to hear the story?
As much as he doesn't want to be here, he can't deny that she does have his interest. So, for now, he'll stomach his revulsion and hear what she has to say.
Alright. I'm listening.
I should have done my homework, because this is a sequel to a story that's also a sequel to another story, and I know little about either of them. It certainly doesn't stop it from being enjoyable, though, that's for sure. Now let's head on over to our honorable donators. Top donators, Dash of Evergreen, Peter Coulthard, J-Tin Man, Darkside, and Ponyman. CourierCruz CI, Delta Omega, Strix, RuneScythe9852, dospo, Ryanny Dragonwolf, Secret Moon, Tallrascha, Sword Brethren Mordred, Cerberus, Starlight Glimmer, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Alex F., Rainbow Dash, Teal K. Anderson, and John Becker. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.